Good. All right. All right. Sorry about, like I said, the delay here. We're just getting. And so you are civil, is that correct? Okay. And so we do this training for our on a quarter basis. So thank you for coming. It's actually a great opportunity for you to learn how to do business with government. I guess that's what you're today. So what do you do for your line of business?
We are a transportation design firm.
Transportation?
So we design roads and bridges.
Oh, okay. So you do so in engineering? Okay. So well, since you're a captive audience, we can talk about some of the things like CCNA. You're familiar with the Florida statute.
Yes.
You would accept 55 as well? Okay, good. So going into some conversations about basically, I talk about from the town standpoint, but I also talk about a bigger picture and large in regard to government as well, procurement standpoint. So, focus from how we do business as a town, but also expanding out from just general government procurement as well. Okay? So today, some of the topics I'm covering. I'm having all kinds of technical fun here. We're going over here and this aspect of it is the clicker defined as sharing mode. Sharing. It's kind of glitchy. It's one of these things that I've had. You're sharing, okay? Where's my PowerPoint here?
Mm-hmm.
It's here. It's here. Should be able
There you
to.
go.
Okay, yeah, I just,
Oh,
for whatever reason, I don't like this piece. The way this does this.
does it have to be there?
There. Okay. I need you to drive the PowerPoint. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Boy, I'll tell you, challenges with technology, it just never ends. So we got too many things going on at once. You drop that screen down below the right corner. So, right here now. Thank you. So we're going to talk about our procurement thresholds, procurement methods, how we do our notifications, our procurement website, local preference, contracting methodologies, and public procurement fundamentals. Okay. So you can stop me along the way, and Laura, I think you're going to need to drive this because this thing is driving me. No. So you click on that.
I have to pull this back up.
Click on the share screen.
Okay.
Share screen itself.
The PowerPoint.
Oh,
I'm gonna push the,
yeah, there we go.
I don't know how I did that, but
No, you clicked on the screen, and that's what was necessary. For whatever reason, it was looking at the other little box.
okay.
No, but-
Be challenged.
So we have some thresholds right now as far as our thresholds for very simple purchases that our department are delegated to go out and purchase. They can do from 0 to 5,000. So that requires one minimum quote. We have a category 2, which actually is where we get to an informal. So that's from 5,000 to 35,000. Now you're in right now, you're an architect So again, we'll talk about kind of where you're at with $35,000. So the town has a requirement to go out for formal solicitations over 35,000. Okay? For you, design services are exempt for us up to $35,000. So we can engage with your firm without doing a formal solicitation up to 35,000 or an income. Okay, so it's a little bit different because you're in a different category under that statute, under the 287-055, under the Florida statute. So for you, you are actually not subject to informals. You're actually exempt from that effective. But when we go to a formal process with architects and engineers, we have to follow that 287-055. So with us, with architects and engineers, we have to go through an RFQ process, and we'll be talking about different types of solicitations today. But when we talk about architects and engineers, it's really from an RFQ standpoint, qualification based only. And that's one of the differences that we have from regular general contractors or any of the services from janitorial or whatever supplies. It's different in your category. Your category has a specific set of rules set by our code, our policy and procedures, and also the state of Florida statute 287-055. And again, that is you're familiar with that statute? Have you read that statute?
Probably I'm familiar with it, with the name.
Okay. Again, and it's a little convoluted. Reading it sometimes can be a little bit because there's other pieces and parts that come with it, but it's a statute that does not allow us to go out and look at pricing. So we're not going to go, when we do solicitations for architecture and engineer services, we don't look at the price. We only look at qualifications only. And then we select based on qualifications, capabilities, things of that nature, but we don't look at the price. We negotiate the price, but we've selected that firm. So it's a little bit different in your category. So again, and can you let me know if anybody else jumps on from that standpoint so that, I don't want to I'm going to focus most of my conversation today in regards to your field since you're here, and I don't want to exclude somebody. So thank you. All right. So again, our threshold comes up to 35,000. Again, under your line of business is exempt up to that point. So we can actually, if a department felt that you had the qualifications and capability, they would not need to go out and get competitive pricing or do anything like that. They could have a discussion with you and develop a scope. So it's a little bit easier. And that goes for all lines of government.
So that would be without me reaching out for.
You have to do your sales part. That doesn't go away. Your sales part, you still have to do your sales part and that piece, but they don't have to go through a competitive process as far as going out and obtaining quotes or anything like that, because that's not really in your arena to do that. So again, but up to 35,000, they can engage with you to design, to get a scope of work, to look at doing a design up to 35,000. That's where your stopping point is. And once it goes over 35,000, then basically it has to go into that. Now there's also caps on where we have what's called continuing services contracts. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. And again, it's confusing. So we have 17 different departments that we service, from Parks and Recreation all the way through to our administration. And everything in between here are all of the areas that we touch. So we have a team of 3 procurement agents, we have 2 procurement coordinators, we have a procurement specialists, and we have our interns. So we're a very small team for as much as we actually do. But again, about $78 million of spend comes through our office. So we have a lot of work on our hands. Okay, So our town website, is one of the things that we got here. And if you look up at the top, this is on our town website. The top left-hand side is a bid notice board, and we'll kind of go through that, kind of walking through how we actually, post our solicitation. There is a notify me button that actually will give you access to all of the types of solicitations, or you can break it down into categories. So you can get notified by building, roadway construction, which you talked about, consumable equipment, police and fire rescue, professional services. And then again, professional services is definitely where you want to be at, and then all other service products and miscellaneous. So again, we do break it out, or you can get every Band-Aid in building, that comes in between. So you'll get notification for everything we do. So you can actually select that and you'll get that notification. Now, this will be sunsetting in October of this year. We'll be moving to a different platform. Talk about that further on. This for right now is one of the ways that you'll get notification. We are moving to a one-stop shop type of where you're getting notifications. Where do you typically go now to get notifications?
So for me, most of my work comes from the Florida Department of Transportation.
Okay, so
Very well organized in listing all the project online. We also are registered with Demand Star.
right,
So we do get a lot of good notifications.
Okay.
From Demand Star.
right. And we, again, will be going away from Demand Star as well. So we're going to be going to a new solution. Demand Star has been great as far as that piece for it, but it's limited to what it gives us. So that's one of the things that, from the way we take receipt of bids, we assemble bids, how we do work internally, that doesn't really give us the tools that we need. So we're moving to a solution that's kind of a win-win. So it helps us better develop solicitations, and then it also helps us broadcast it, collect the information, and then analyze that data. Demand Star has been great in regards to pushing it out and being able to submit it, but that's where it's limited. So we're looking for something that is more friendly for us too. So that's why we're moving away from. Again, our webpage will be pointed to OpenGov is the solution that we'll be going to. It'll be pointed there, and you'll still be able to access through that all of the information. But we do have a supplier central page that we maintain as well that has information in regards to just our documents on how to do business with the town, our requirements. Again, you got different things like our procurement manual. It's always fun to read. It's like one of the best sellers on Amazon. I'm only kidding. But again, we do have other information that we put on there so that if there's something that comes up that you need to see, then basically we will have that information available. And again, we'll be changing some of this information down the line as we move into this different platform. So you'll be able to access, again, directly into OpenGov on this page as well.
This presentation will be available online. I don't need to write down.
Yes. Right. Okay, so again, here's Demand Star. You're using this product right now, so you're familiar with Demand Star. And again, we're going to be moving to a product in October. We'll be starting probably within the next month to utilize this software, but we'll fully be implemented by October of this year with this product, OpenGov. So OpenGov, again, has a lot more data for us, information, again, how we assemble solicitations. A lot of that is really built directly for us for procurement. So that is, again, a helpful tool.
A lot of local agencies are going toward that.
They're moving this direction. There's a couple of platforms that basically that are out there. And I'll name a few. And again, we pay for this. We pay for OpenGov, so it's our subscription. Where Demand Star we got for free. You had to pay for it. This you don't have to pay for. You really, it's free for you to use. So we kind of footed the bill now. So that's one of the benefits to it as well for you.
It's free for consultants.
It's free for all people to access as far as that aspect. So you don't have to pay for that demand star for us. But again, you'll be able to access this information for free. So again, there's OpenGov, there's Bonfire, which is also called Una. What did they change? They changed their name. It's Una Solutions, but it's also Bonfire. Broward County's gone to Bonfire. Some of us have gone different directions. There used to be one called BidSync before.
Yes.
So BidSync basically has now changed to another product as well. Ion Wave was another one. And lastly, the one that I'm missing. OpenGo, Bonfire, Ion Wave, Bids and Tenders. So Bids and Tenders is another one that's out there that again, some agencies use. So it gets confusing on how many subscription services you are. These are probably one of the top leading. A lot of agencies are starting to move this direction. We went to Bonfire for a little bit. It didn't really work for us. It wasn't a solution that was something that we found that was going to be advantageous for the town to continue to use. So we moved to OpenGov, and that's where we're going now. Okay, and again, everything we do will be moving to that. So it won't be like you have to go to either Demand Star or our town webpage. Everything will be on OpenGov. So right now, our webpage has a ton of information. Like you won't even find on Demand Star, like the videos of all of the recordings that we do for just an opening or review committee or any of that process we store on our town webpage. We'll be moving that stuff over going forward in the future on OpenGov. So there's just one place to go, not all this stuff of jumping around. Where am I getting my information from? Okay. So one of the things, and again, consultants and talking in your line of business, you guys are really good at is when you're putting together your scopes of services. Most of the time you're hiring professional companies to put this together for you, but we always tell everybody, build that toolkit so you have it ready for you when that opportunity for that solicitation comes up, especially because yours is qualification based. You really do get those marketing firms to build those books for you, which are those now not books anymore. I'm dating myself. Thank you. Yeah, I know now it's more digital as far as that digital response, but again, building that profile of your company. So that profile is important. Again, going through simple things like your history, your mission statement, your company contact information page, making sure that you have all of that in there. Again, transmittal page. Again, that's kind of part and parcel for the things that you guys put together. You probably have a team that puts a lot of that stuff together, and you give them the information based on the qualifications of the projects, right? So that's why I said your line of business is this, for vendors, things that for contractors that don't do this, you guys are really kind of where we look at things and say, this is how it should be done because of the way you obviously qualification-based professionals are submitting your packages. Again, put together your profiles, look at color images, organizational charts. You guys do all that stuff. I hope, as far as your firm does that stuff too. I mean, when you're putting that stuff together, this should be very simple stuff. Resumes are all part of the business for you. Again, now, where some of the things do fall short and where you really kind of need to make sure your administrative staff and the folks that are putting these together is some of the things is your insurance certificates, making sure that you guys are looking at that and looking at that over time. We do have, on occasion, have responses from architect engineering firms, things of that nature, not providing that. So great on that part. Some of the parts, the other pieces, really need to kind of, because that has to get updated. It's not part of that static submittal package, you know, and we'll talk about that too, because there are some things that are inherent to the nature of architects and engineers. When they're building that front end page,
They are actually bring that from the provide all the forms and all of these are listed as far as the what is needed for the certificate of insurance.
Right.
And,
we do provide that, but the thing is that submitting your certificate with that, your court certificate, all the things, that's important. And again, the client references, you know, getting all of that information. If you have subcontractors, you're putting that in there, all your licenses, your certifications, all that stuff needs to be included. Again, going through that on your submittals. When you're doing that, like I said, a lot of times whoever's putting your package together, make sure they're going through and putting that detailed information. Because if they're not, you have to go back and hunt for it. And that kind of shows that, you know, you're not paying attention. One of the things also that we see in architecture and engineering is you do have these pre-canned solicitation packages or proposals. Someone needs to go through those and really read them because they do the find and replace. A lot of times they'll look at the name of the agency and they'll say Davie or City of Fort Lauderdale. Well, it's Town of Davie. And a lot of times we see City of Davie, or we see some other agency's name that didn't get caught in reading that. That shows basically that someone's just taking a pre-canned package and not really doing it. So proofreading and going through the packages, especially for you guys, and again, your line of business is important. So whoever's assigned to that, on your firm, wherever, that's something that really can kind of burn a little bit of the review committee on how they're looking at this, because again, they're like, you guys didn't really pay attention to this. And then it transcends up to the council. If it goes to the commission or something like that, they're looking and you don't even have the right agency name on there. It never looks good. Like, and no, and it's one of those things. So taking that extra step to do that, I know it seems trivial, but it's one of those things that it kind of, did you take the time to really care about your submission? I can tell you, it does come out a lot of times in reviews for those type of transactions. So again, this kind of falls in, again, you don't provide really quotes, but it, again, kind of just really is looking at, again, your mathematics. You guys don't do that piece of it. Other bonds, again, you don't have those, but addendas is an issue. If we put out addendas, make sure before you submit your package that someone's going back into that and looking at the addendas. Because something may have changed. There might have been something else that has been added. There might have been a scope change. There might have been something else. Not including those will get you thrown out. And if it's something, some material question from somebody else, and if you cause a change to it, and you did not recognize it, and you did not acknowledge it, it will get you tossed. And we had a couple of firms in one of our recent continuing services contracts that basically did not submit to the documentation, got thrown out. And that's never good for anybody, you know. So again, if you take the time to go through all this stuff, when you're finishing it up, have a second set of eyes look at this stuff. And again, you have an administrative team that's doing this, right? Or do you put it?
Yeah, administrative team is gonna put together what we tell them to do. So we
Right.
have to select the staff, we have to select the projects that they're going to,
Right.
But we definitely be in whoever's going to be the project manager on this project goes back and proofread. Then we have a review committee as well in-house, and we have like maybe 3 or 4 people that go through the proposal and.
That's good.
Go through a big process of QC.
That's excellent, because again, sometimes we don't see that. We don't see that from that standpoint, and it looks like It's,
just marketing people putting it together, but a lot of the engineers have a lot to do with this. Now, a lot of it requires us to like a technical portion of it.
Right.
So we started putting things from previous projects. We take the time to write about the project, about our approach to the project, and
that's great. Good, and that's good, because actually, like I said, we sometimes really shows the difference between a submittal that looks like they're just sending it in versus someone that's taking the time to put that together. I know it may seem like a lot of extra effort and whatever, but that's going the extra mile that will get you to that qualification package. And if you don't do that, when we're doing the review aspect of it, it clearly comes out. It really does, and it does. You may not get every project, but again, it's one of those things that you can't be basically called out by saying, this looks like it's incomplete, or you didn't address any of the issues, or someone didn't review this. And again, it starts off with, you know, the wrong name of the municipality, and then it just starts to unveil itself that someone didn't really take that QC time to do that. So congratulations on it, if that's what you're doing. That's a great way to do it. You guys are on the right track. So keep doing what you're doing on that aspect. Again, just some terms to know. Again, we have some local preference here. Talking about RFQs, and again, back into your lane. We take it into consideration as far as local preference. So if you're here locally, obviously we know your team is here on a local. We're going to get that local support. We're going to get that aspect of having somebody. We're not calling, you know, Nome, Alaska to try to get somebody on WebEx that may not even have, you know, that contact or be able to sit here in a room with us. Obviously today with, you know, telecommunication and the way we're doing WebEx, it makes it easier, but there's something to be said about coming into a team meeting and those things. So we look at those and we depend on, again, how that plays into the project. Sometimes it's not necessary, but sometimes when you really need those into your projects, you need actually people in the room and going through that. So again, we look at the local preference. Piggybacking is not applicable to your line of business. You cannot piggyback contracts, even if it's a continuing service contract for professional services for your line of business. If someone ever said, hey, they want to piggyback and they want to utilize it, state of Florida statute does not allow for that. Now, I've seen agencies attempt to do it and asked us, and I've told them, go back and read the statute. It talks about how each agency shall do its own. So if someone comes back and says, hey, I want to use the, although your company may say, well, that's great, we can take our you know, hourly rates and let them piggyback that. It's up to the agency to determine that, but Florida statute doesn't allow. Again, each agency operates on its own. Whatever they do their business, that's up to them. But I can tell you that it's not something we will do here, Dave. And cooperative still doesn't apply in your area. Again, we look at best value when we look at things. We always look for not just the lowest dollar. We look for the best overall for us. So what's in the best interest of the town? Something comes in too cheap. Obviously, it's one of those things that you get what you pay for, right? You know, some of these guys come in with, you know, landscaping and things of that nature that they're like, hey, they undercut by 50%, but then we have to start peeling back is, you know, what do they have for equipment? You know, do they have two lawnmowers and a goat that goes around and puts it on the field? You know, that's not how we're going to go ahead and cut our lawn, you know, or you know, are they using the right proper safety, you know, stuff like that. So again, you know, we're not going to go through that. We're going to make sure that we have the best value for the town. And again, we make sure that we follow what's fair and equitable for contractors. We do everything as transparent as possible. We record all of our meetings. We make sure that we actually have them by video, so we don't just do it audio. So you can actually see what's going on if you're not here, except for when you're doing presentations. Now, you know, with presentations, if you get invited back for presentation, those are closed door, but they're available after the award. So you can actually get that documentation.
What about the proposals from other consultants?
That is, again, 30 days, or basically if there's a recommendation. So the Florida statute precludes those up to 30 days from any viewing. But after 30 days, they're available. So that's under chapter 119.
Or is that something that is available from the website?
So our past responses from any of our other architects and engineers, again, we follow the Florida statute under 119, chapter 119 of the Florida statute. That's the sunshine law. So are you familiar with the sunshine law?
Part of it, but.
Okay, so it allows us to go through and review and do our analysis and keep those sequestered for 30 days. We really keep that information out of the sunshine. But after 30 days, we have to make it available if somebody asks for it. We don't put it out there and just say, but if somebody asks for it, then we put it out there. If not, we keep it pretty much sheltered at that point. But if within those 30 days, say on the 15th day, we made a recommendation to move forward with this particular firm, that stops the clock. So after 15, so we made a recommendation. As soon as we make that recommendation, that information becomes public. So again,
Like, let's say our practices, I would like to not start doing business with you guys, but I want to see how some of the previous selected firms have done their proposal. Who should I request?
so you can go on our website and you can search all of our solicitations and you'll get all of our, if you look at basically like we had a DCP, we had a, for our town hall. We actually put out a solicitation, and Justin Architects is our firm that did the DCP for that. So they submitted for that, and you want to see how they put together the DCP. It's on the web. It's on our webpage. So all of the, even the presentations, things of that nature, everything afterward is there. All those videos, great for Friday nights. It's like watching Netflix. I mean, it's one of those things you can just really kind of just enjoy. Popcorn, glass of wine. You can watch the videos. You can basically see the presentations. You can see all of their submittal packages, everything of that nature. You can see on our town website. So that documentation is all there for all the stuff that's been awarded and passed. Anything that's in process, again, if it's in the 30-day window, you're not going to see it. If it's after the 30-day window and we're still in the process, we have to make it available, even though that's the case. Okay? We still, if we go through presentations, those are still closed door. We don't make those recordings available until we make the recommendation. Okay? Again, just some general information on, as far as our town webpage, how do we get, anytime in our documents, we have bids at davie-fl.gov. That's where our main, if you're looking for information in regards to a solicitation or anything of that nature, you can email that email address. Our general email is procurement at davie-fl.gov. And then our webpage is there, is davie-fl.gov for 11 procurement. So again, just some information on our webpage here. Pretty much it. And so, some questions you have in regards to how can I address some of the things for you? What are your challenges? Where are your biggest challenges? What do you find as roadblocks or difficulties?
And I just want to know what's the right path for us to be able to know who's the technical review committee, get to understand what you guys are really looking for in a proposal, and us as a vendor. What hasn't worked for you in the past, what has worked for you in the past, and what we can bring to the table to make the difference.
Okay. So, couple of things on that aspect of it. When you see a solicitation that's out there and you find it, and again, I'm gonna talk about in generalities, all right? I'm gonna open the scope up for government aspects of things. When you see those solicitations in there, it's important, obviously, to read that document. I know it seems like a common sense kind of answer, but one of the things you need to focus on is, you asked, who's that review committee, right? Well, one of the things is, why do you want to know that review committee? You want to contact them? Because that can't happen. That review committee is
You need to
found,
understand your audience. For example, I did, if I were to Florida, I'm working on transportation right now,
right,
and we're doing work with District Six, which is in Miami.
right,
New technical review committees are young adults in their twenties with that much of experience. So we're using very highly technical terms that they were not familiar with. And they're like, oh, you didn't talk about this. And then I saw over here and that, oh, I didn't know that meant the same thing. So you kind of have to simplify the way you write because your audience is different. So it happens to, we need to have an understanding of who the TRCs are, who we're writing to. What do they really want to see? Do they really want to very technical, or do they really want to see how the company works, how the company functions, but not really how we're going to construct or how we're going to design this for ease of construction. So sometimes we get too technical for them, whether that review committee and they lose interest.
wow, that's insightful. That's really insightful. Thank you.
But yeah, it's good to know who your audience is. That's the only reason that we ask for the comedians. But also, if you have a relationship with someone, of course, you develop a trust
Right.
in the person. So that would be, as far as relationship, I'm not referring to being the person's friend or giving them out to dinner or something, but trying to make them understand who we are without having worked with us before, because nobody, I would not know any of those people. They will see the name of STM Masters and they're like, never seen this company before. But if you don't market to them prior to the project, it's gonna be very difficult for us to win a project without having some type of relationship. It could be just marketing, having one meeting, like.
Before the solicitation goes out.
Before the solicitation, way before, so
Right.
I'm not sure how the town does it. The DOT is pretty clear.
Right, lobbying,
Yeah.
how you lobby and stuff like that, I get it.
Here, I'm not sure how you guys do that, so that we can get our name out before solicitations.
Very smart, very true, all of those things you said. And very insightful for the fact that, I'll tell you, that we look at some of those questions and say, there's a review committee. And we urge them to not basically contact the review committee now. Because that's the first thing is that they're gonna follow and basically do that. In that question, when you ask that, you may want to expand upon that. I don't know really, how you can get to that point to not, you just gave me a little bit of an overview without that, but I think that adding a little bit more information so that we can better understand the target audience, maybe that's how can you please let us know who the committee members are so that we can, basically shape our solicitation, our response back, something to that aspect, because when you ask who's the review committee, immediately we think of, well, you're not really supposed to be reaching out to them. And that's how we look at it. And just the same thing, we don't want you to step on your the cone of silence or anything of that nature. And that's what we meant. I can tell you if I asked 50 procurement people in a room, that's where their thoughts are gonna go to. They're never gonna come up with that kind of, maybe one or two people are.
But are you guys transparent in the like, for example, again, going to even to Palm Beach County, because we have done it in Palm Beach County, and they tell you who the review committee members are going to be.
We do, we say that, but we do tell you.
We do say that.
We
And
do,
the reason is that for let's say for entities, you know, the people, all the TRC members are on the technical side.
Right,
Beyond some are whatever, it doesn't matter, but they're all on the technical side. But when you go to a lot of the local agencies, you have, non-engineers, most of, like 50% of you have a TRC members of kind of 5, 6 people. Maybe 3 of them are on the engineering side, and the other 2 are like on the,
finance side of things, right?
So one of them's like, oh no, we just like their presentation, the pictures were so pretty. Like, okay, so the next time you need to kind of work on that to make sure that they understand that aspect. I mean, they have, I guess they enjoy the presentation, not just on the technical side, but also on the way you present. And some of them were like, okay, but we like, they had a variety of people. They had the young, old, black, white, that's what they wanted to see. And
We don't go into demographics, we don't go into that deep of basically on who our response is. We'll tell you, you know, that we have, if we know, sometimes we don't. Sometimes it really comes in that, you know, it depends on the project, it depends on some of those. Sometimes it hasn't been really set in stone on those evaluators yet. But I will tell you that we do get that variation. We will have, like, for example, when we did town hall, we had, 3 engineers. We had 2 engineers, an architect. We had, our assistant town administrator, our town clerk, sitting on that. So we had all kind of bases covered, and we, you know, so we were looking at it from that standpoint of the broad scope of the council's representation all the way down to the engineering side of it and the architectural side of it. And then we also had our subject matters. So sometimes we have a consultant that if we're doing a design build, we had our DCP technical review on that side of it as well. So again, you know, those, you may also want to ask, do you have, when you're asking that, do you have subject matters as well? You may get that too, because that may help you just down the line and saying, can you give me the review committee members and any subject matters that may be associated to this? That might help you as well. Subject matters are not people that are voting members, but they're the technical advisors to basically those, because sometimes, you know, the people that are up here at the table doing the review aspect of it are not always, they're going to look to the subject matters out there for technical aspects of things. So you may want to expand it, just giving you a little bit of advice from that standpoint.
I just actually had that, because we did a presentation for the city of Lighthouse Point.
And they had some subject matters. So you, because your subject matters obviously may have that better technical understanding, so you may want to ask that too.
They don't typically vote, but then they give the advice.
They give the feedback and the advice, and they consult and basically provide to the review committee members to, you know, give that. So again, it may help you to better understand that. But again, different perspective I've just learned out of today is that what you're looking for and how you're trying to understand that. Because, again, we have looked at it from a different perspective. We are kind of the gatekeepers of that. We have some change or no? No, we're good. Gatekeepers of the process. So when, you know, we hear who's on that, we throw the alarms up of don't be reaching out to them, don't be doing this. We don't really think of that lane. So you may want to help on yourself to understand what you're asking for. Because when you just ask for that, it leaves it open for interpretation. So you could probably get some better responses from there of saying, you know, do you have subject matters are included? You know, we're not looking to reach out. We're just trying to better understand the audience that we are targeting to. And that will settle them down, and that may give you better responses from that. Just, they might give it to you, but you might get a little bit better. Because obviously we can say that we have an architect, we have an engineer, you know, we might give that.
That should be enough.
No, I'm just saying, but we might be able to give, and you might want to ask that, what is their qualifications, what is their background? Some of those things so you understand who you're dealing with. Because instead, when you ask just for that general question of who are they, how are you going to get that? Right, even names of it you can, or titles or positions, just the same, you know, from that standpoint. And sometimes, again, that's when we get that general question, who are the review committee members? And we're like, well, we're not denying. So then maybe expand on it, say, can you give me the titles of the positions that are going to be doing this, their qualification, background, so we understand our target audience, so we can make sure that our presentation is, something to, like, adaptable to them, or at least understand. That would make a complete difference in the way it's received from a project manager or something of that nature from an agency, rather than just a general question of who's your review committee members. I'm telling you, it would make a world of difference. But very good topic on that, because, again, you just taught me something. And that's what I love about it, because I say we learn something in procurement every day about something in our processes, and I'm here to do the training, and you actually teach me. That's amazing. So I love it. Any other questions? What are other challenges that you run across?
So going back to I'm sure it's that part of this presentation, to how we get our name.
Okay.
It's not just a new firm actually for the town of Davie. We're a new firm for Florida. So this is a national firm that is trying to establish ourselves into Florida. And then we've already made the hiring. We have a lot of people now that are local to here. But how do we get to the town to know us and trust and get the trust?
Okay.
Give us some project.
So some of it's going to be the good old, swinging for the fences every time, the responses are out there and putting in. That's going to come down to it. And they're going to see, that aspect of it. Again, what your quality of your responses look like, word of mouth. We speak to each other across the lines. I mean, and that's one of the things from the town. We are part of the Southeast Florida chapter of NIGP, and we are part of a couple other organizations, professional organizations that we learn, and we actually communicate with each other on a regular basis about different firms, different companies, different things like that. So that's we have that network. We don't compete with each other like you compete with your obviously competitors, but you still have professional networks that know the other firms, and we do the same thing. We have a network that we work with. So we know across lines of, and that, like, Craven Thompson, just some of those ones that are out there that are the normal, what we have for water, utilities and things like that, the regulars that we deal with. And those are what you want to get to, is you want to become that established name here in Florida that people know it as a branded name of doing design services or whatever you do. And what you said your lane is roadway transportation.
Bridges, mostly bridges, actually, we do a lot of structural design.
Saying that, so I was gonna say, bridges must be one of the big topics for you, as far as one of the, now was that up in Santa, what was that? Baltimore and all the other ones, as far as.
The Texas recently as well.
So I'm sure bridges are like on everybody's mind now as far as transportation and stuff like that. It's one of the crazy things.
We do comprehensive, all the signature bridges up north, they have that area covered.
Well, here, but just the same, you run into that. Obviously, bridges are one of those things that have to be certified, and we have actually had that service, and we have a couple of firms that, again, have done, like we do here, pedestrian bridges. We've had some other things. The town has paths and road, like trails, and we have trail bridges and things like that we need to have done. We had a bridge over on the canal right across from Town Hall that needed to be completely reviewed. And
Orange Drive, I believe.
the Orange Drive one, right there, the bridge that went across to Griffin, that bridge had to be redone just recently. So again, we have a need for it. Now, to get to your point, how do I do this? There's a couple of ways. Send us an email, we'll forward their information. Floor does a lot of our vendor communication. We do, if they're going to use your services, you'd be required to go through a registration process. But getting on our list, obviously, you said demand starts from one, right? You've already done that aspect of it. Getting on OpenGov, but getting to the front desk of those offices and having a sit down and say, I want to get, we can get you some of that. We can get, at least point you there to, so send us an email, send us some information, give us some background, and then Laura, if you can, we'll send them off to, engineering, department, to Public Works. Try to get a sit down appointment with them. Just say, I'd like to do a 15-minute sit down with you, maybe whatever, half hour, and go through and do an introduction. Because again, we do have a pool of continuing services contractors already in place. And they may say that to you, well, we already have a pool. But there are times where either that pool is busy or they're not the right fit for that project. You're kind of in that niche piece of bridges and things like that, that may not be in their specialty area. So you may want to kind of highlight that and say, it wasn't necessarily where our highlighted areas is bridge design, structural. These are areas they can do up to $35,000 without a specific project. Now, if we had something that came up that we were going to build a pedestrian bridge, let's just say across one of our major, like University Drive, we were going to build it for, and it was over the threshold of $4 million, we would have to go out for an RFQ, even if we had a continuing contract pool. That's the part that you really kind of run up against on some of those areas, is those continuing contract pools that we already have established. Because those are in place and they make it easy because we can kind of point and shoot those pools. And that's why it's easier for some of those things.
And those from the continuing services contract, you don't have like the limitation of the size?
We have a limitation of not the size of the pool, about the amount of money. The 4 million on construction. Yeah. Yep. So basically, if we're gonna go out, we got a $5 million project, we can't use that pool. We have to go out for a one-time type of RFQ. So again, those are the larger projects.
Continuing contracts are awarded how often?
That's the tricky part too, because sometimes we keep them open for quite a while and we don't open those pools back up, on a regular basis. So we do tend to keep those sometimes up to 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yep, that's the bad news. So that's, so I'm not saying that every agency does that. I'm just saying that, and honestly, there is a provision in the Florida statute that says they can be indefinite as long as there's a termination for convenience in there. So, that you're gonna run up against that. It's just gonna be an obstacle. Obviously, sometimes we want to refresh and go out and we'll decide if we want to do that or not. If we're happy with the pool and how the pool's, actually performing, then, we won't question it. But sometimes if we're not seeing quality responses, quality work, we're not getting some of those, sometimes they're over capacity. They can't get to these projects. Then basically we will look at it. We ran into this issue with our utilities department. Our utilities did a second pool because they needed, for utilities themselves, they needed a better focused group for utilities. So it's not to say that once those pools are established, but sometimes that is the case. Depends on the agency too. Depends on the size, depends on what that is. So just giving you the straight honest on that.
That's good to know. We just advertise that we're not moving after, but like bridge widening, which is the one that I was really interested in pursuing. But then I was like, okay, we need to do that first, and then another, maybe in the future pursue.
But again, your responses on how you actually put that package together, sometimes they'll look and say it's a specialty area that is not typical roadway you know, and again, we have our water utility aspects, our, you know, underground things of that nature that we know all day long, that we know that we have some of the ones that we go to, that we have reliable responses from, we have things of that nature. But some of these specialty things, those are things I think that are not as common. So you're kind of in a good space on that, because again, on those other ones, there's a lot of competing firms and they almost have their areas, they know where their territories are and who they're dealing with. But you're kind of in that, I think, in that other area where you have a little more opportunity. Structural, because that's where you fall into, obviously, structural engineering, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, structural could be utilized in different ways. So I don't see a lot of responses on times with structural versus basically mechanical, utility and things like that. So, any other questions? Okay.
Well, Brian, one thing I wanted to bring up is that we just recently had a trade show. Went to the trade show. I'm not sure if we're gonna be having one next year as well, but that would be a good opportunity for you to meet other agencies as well.
Okay.
So what Marcel is saying is that the Southeast Florida chapter of NIGP does, sometimes it's annual, sometimes they skip a year, what's called a reverse trade show. Now, obviously South Florida, I'll be here, but Orlando, Orange County, different parts of the state do have other chapters of NIGP. And they do have what's called a reverse trade show. And then what we do is we bring in 30 to 40 agencies into a trade show environment. And you, as the consultant, can basically hit 30 to 40 agencies at one shot. But you're really getting some face time with basically the procurement people, but what you're really needing, that's your next step to the entree, like you are today here, is how do I get to sit down with that engineering department? How do I get to sit down with that public works director or that utilities director or things of that nature? That's what you're looking for, is that next step, so that you can kind of have that conversation about, here's our firm, here's our qualification, this is what we're talking about. You want to have that one-on-one with them where you don't get to do that in a competitive environment until basically they've looked at your package and said, yeah, this is it. You want to get to know them a little bit and they want you, you know, just saying, get you to know you. So that's what I totally know where you're at. So again, put together something for us, just a brief overview of your company, send it to Laura, and then basically, what we can do is send it off to them, see if we can get them some sit downs with you, just to, you know, we'll tell them you attended, you were interested in at least having a conversation with them. Again, you know, you're gonna be limited by some of the scopes for here, for the town.
Do you guys have a work program?
A what?
Have-your work program or something that?
Capital project? Yes. Yeah, so again, you can request our 5-year CIP. When you send the email to Laura, you can request, please, can I see your 5-year CIP plan? And again, when you go to your engine, if you meet with engineering, ask them about that. And again, there may be things, but you'll be able to see those projects that exceed over that 5 million. And that's a good way to get at it, because then when you'll know what's on the radar for those types of things, we won't be using those continuing pools. We'll be using the RFQ method, where you'll be able to start to put your, you know, basically, you know, eyes out and say, hey, I know that project's gonna come to the town of Davie. I wanna put that on my watch list of things down the line. We have that for town hall. We have that for, as we put the DCP out, we had design build firms starting to call us and say, hey, keep us in mind when you're doing this. And one of the companies that was doing that actually is being selected as the top ranked. They showed interest. They did that pursuit. They went back through. They said, you know, we're not in the cone. We want you to get to know us. They built these things and they did that up front, and it paid off for them, because again, when they responded, they came with a full force package that did a great job. So, okay. Well, thank you for your attendance. Had some action, and thank you for the education piece of what you've taught me today. So with that, if there's nothing else, send us, Laura, if you want to.
Laura, do you have business?
Yeah, I also took a picture of your card so I can send you an email as well.
Okay. I'm gonna stop the